This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so good morning once again. So, okay, so I hope everyone practiced the last session what we discussed. Any questions, anyone? Yes, no, no questions. Okay. Okay, so in the last session, we have discussed more about the different types of variables. And then while defining the variable, I told we should aware of reserved keywords first, because these reserved keywords, which we cannot use as a variable name or function name or method name in Python, right? And then we discussed how to check the result keywords the different ways, and then how to take input from the keyboard using with input function. But input function, so we understood it is used to take input from the keyboard, but at the same time it will take every input as a string. So for that again, we also discussed that how to convert that string to integer, those things, right? So that is a typecasting. Just okay. So we understood how to convert the data type, and then also we understood the eval function importance here, and we discussed that the differences between snake case and camel case. Also, we understood that how to get the reference number for the every variable, which means if we define a variable internally, what it happens, how it will actually create the object. These are the things we covered. Okay, so today first we will see how to write a Python script on Linux operating system, and then how to execute it, right? So how to write a Python script on Linux operating system. So even if you are using Mac, it will be the same. And then we will see deep dive about strings concept. Okay, so in the variables, we discussed in the basic type of variables, we have a list of data types. So integer, float, boolean, and then strings. So int, float, boolean, nothing. We just define, like, let's say if you define something, any numeric number, just a value 100, 10, something like that, that is a integer. If you write a 2.5, 3.5, something like that, that is actually float values. And then boolean is nothing but true or false. But strings, we should aware of it. So strings, important concept here. Okay. So we will see what exactly the string, and then what are the different types, these all things. Just a second. Yeah. So the different types, and then we will try to understand the differences, these all the things. Okay, so first we will see how to write a Python script on Linux or Mac OS. So let me open my Putty session here. So if you have a Linux terminal or Linux server, whatever, like, you can just try it. Or you can also use some online terminals. If you already good in Linux, then you can try it. Otherwise, you can ignore, no problem. So let me increase the size. Okay. Okay, the best online terminal, you can use this because most of the online terminals, VA editor we cannot use. But this one you can see directly it will come with root access, and VA editor also you can use in this. Okay. So you can use this online terminal if you don't have any Linux machine. So initially, first we are trying to understand how to write Python script, but later we will see while working with something Ansible module like that, we will see the AWS, inside the AWS, and we will see EC2 instance. But just now, we no need those in EC2 and all now. Just we are writing a script, that's it. So, okay, so now here see, this is a Linux operating system. And I'm creating a separate folder. So Python, something like I'm creating a separate folder like Python Devops, and then cd change directory Python Devops. Okay, so now my present working directory is this. So if you want to write a Python script, so the very first step we have to verify whether Python installed or not on Linux operating system. If you are using Mac, then you just open the terminal in the Mac, and then you just run the same way the command Python space hyphen capital. Same command here also. So we can see Python 3.6.8, any 3-point version is fine. So as I told, even if you are using 2-point versions, you can try with 2-point, but it is always best practices to upgrade the version. So from python.org itself, we can check. Now, for example, if you see here, python.org, we can see the downloads. If you want to download for Mac, you can use here. And other platforms, if you click on here, and then you can see for AX, for different operating systems, we can see. So generally for Linux, we use active state from active Python. So that's what I told, active Python. Active state is actually just, it's a copy of this python.org. But python.org, it's a pure open source community. But active state, it will give you either licensed version, means a commercial version, also the community versions. So that's why generally in real time we use from active state. So if you just click on active state here, so this is just copy of python.org. So we can see here products Python, and from here actually we can download. Now see for Linux, download Python 3. So from here we can get that and we can install. So first time we need to register it. So if you don't have an account, we need to register, or if you have already, account, then we can use it. So I already have it. Let me, or I can also use GitHub one. So in case if you want to install, then only it is required, otherwise not required. Okay. Okay, now we can see the projects here. From here we will get, so I am just selecting Python language, and then you can see the version 3.9 whatever the version you want. So it is by default recommending. So now I want to go with Linux. So just click on this Linux, and then you can see so which operating system you want. Let's say if you are from using Red Hat, then you can use Red Hat like this. Or if you want Mac, and you can also use the Mac. And then see, now it is coming like some package like this, right? So now if you want to add, you can add this package. Now we can see here in the projects. So basically what, see, now you can see here, I created actually like for Python 3.9. So now you can actually install this. Whatever like versions you can create, and then you can install from here. So now just let's say install. So it will actually come here. So this is actually for what in case if you are in Linux, if you want to upgrade, maybe if you are using 2 versions, and we can use actually the latest versions from here. But only thing here, you need to create a separate account. Okay, so you have to provide some details, your username, and so now you can see, you just copy this command and then you can execute it. That's it. Nothing there. You don't need to even download nothing. So just you can copy this command and then open the terminal and you can execute the command. So it will install. So that's it. So this is the command in like, but see, so this is based on my system it created. But if you are using your own access and all, then it will create a one specific command link, and then you can copy that link and then you can execute it. Let me paste here what it exactly. So this is how it will be. Okay, so means it is just trying to execute like a shell, and then it is getting from the active state that install.sh script, and then executing based on my name. Also, you can see this all the details. So this is how we actually execute it, but you need to create in case if it is required for Linux. Otherwise, as I told, the default one also you can use it. Okay, so here two things. As I told, we do have a licensed version, and then also we do have a community edition. So licensed version, if you are using, we will get support also. So we can see the plans and pricing for that. You can check it for that. Okay, so now I already have Python 3 only. So what I'm trying to do, so if you want to write here, so the first step, same like on Windows operating system. So we just use open any text editors. So the text editors, we have a lot of editors, right? VA editor, or you can use Nano editor, or you can use Pico editor, or you can use Nano like ED editor, Emacs editor, like that. Any editor we can use. There are a lot of editors, right, in Linux also. So VA or Vim, anything is fine. So always generally we use VA editor. So VI, then script name. Okay. So VI, But VA commands, we should aware of it. Otherwise, it is difficult because whenever if you are writing any script, the VA commands mandate. So VI, then I am just writing script1 dot py. You see here script1 dot py. I'm giving a dot py extension and then enter. This is the VA editor. So we know VA editor generally having three types of modes. So the first one is a command mode. So I'm in command mode now. I want to go insert mode. You can use different commands, but I'm using only I. To change the command mode to insert mode. So only if anyone already aware, then they can understand this. If not aware of Linux, then ignore. Okay, we will see in case if it is required later. So now I'm using print, and then I want to print here hi Python, and then I'm just writing here print. This is my first script on Linux. Something like that, two statements I'm writing, and then escape shift colon WQ, save and quit. We know cat command we use to open and display the file, but if you want to check with the line numbers, so we use a generally -n, right? -n. So there are two lines of code now. I want to execute this script. So if you want to execute it, okay, so if you want to execute the script here, there are two ways we can execute. So this is important now. So we used already VI editor. So VI script1 dot py, and then also we saved the file. So whatever we discussed VI editor, like having three types of modes. Command mode, first if you open, it will open in a command mode, and then we should go to insert mode to type some text, and then we have to save in the colon mode using with WQ, save and quit. So now this is the script here. So if you want to execute, we can execute two different ways. So one, we can using with interpreter name, that is Python and then script1. So we can simply use Python then script1. So the same like how we executed on Windows operating system, same thing. Another way, we can also use /. I'm using // and then script1 dot py. So anyone tell me what will be the output now if I execute like this? So // basically what, it's more secured way. So generally // it will check in the current working directory whether this script is available or not. If it is available, it will try to execute it. But the question here, can we get the output now or no? Any guess? Any Linux
We need to
people?
set the
Yeah.
environment
I
variable.
think no, we need to give a execution permission for the folder.
Yeah. So the first step, that is correct, permissions required. So now if you check for the script file, there is no execute permission. Simply it is giving permissions denied. So what is the permission now? So the permission, if you check for the script1, for owner it is having read and write permission. So which means what, we can read the data or we can modify the file. But we don't have execute permission. So if we don't have execute permission, first step we cannot execute using with // but you can execute using with Python interpreter. That is different. But if you want to execute using with the / permissions, read and execute mandatory. Okay, I'm just giving execute permission only for owner now. So I'm just giving only for owner, u plus x, owner, u means owner, and plus x execute permission I'm giving for the script one. Now again, if you check the permissions, the permissions it changed now. So for owner now we have read and write execute permission. Now tell me, if I execute, what it happens? Is it gives output now? Because I gave the permissions, execute permission, now it should execute the script, right? So what will be the output? Any guess?
In
So I
that
give the
high Python,
permission.
this is my
Hmm?
yeah. The high Python, this is my first script on Linux.
So
The
that two
print
lines should
option
print,
display.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why error, Harish?
I think it's just we are not mentioning anything. It's just a kind of an plain text which we are giving, and we are trying to execute with the Python.
Hmm.
So yeah, there is no variables. There is nothing to any no logical operation. Nothing is there. So it's just a plain kind of an text
Yeah,
which we have.
it's just at least we have a print function, right? So the print function,
I think
we
you are saying.
executed Python script one and we got already output. This is the script actually, right?
I thought that that's the one which I got. So I just joined late. I missed it then.
Oh, okay. So this is the script file. You can see here, this is the script. These two lines already there. Print hi Python, print, this is my first script on Linux. These two lines we have.
Okay. Okay.
Also, we executed using with Python interpreter name, and then we got this output. But the now question was like, if we run with the dot slash, there are dependencies. One, read and execute permissions required. Okay, we provided that permission as well. Now again, I'm trying to execute here. Is it gives output or no?
No.
Why no? Follow.
I think dot slash is to run only shell scripts, not Python scripts.
Or is it? So see, the first thing, dot slash we can use to execute any script. It can be a shell, it can be a Perl, or it can be a Python, or it can be Groovy, whatever. We can execute if we have that interpreter in that server. So which means now we have a Python interpreter already available, and then we can execute using with dot slash. But only the problem is here. This is important. See, most of the times we'll get confusion about this. So what we just understood, if you are executing using with Python interpreter name, then script name, there is no problem, it will execute because Python interpreter is trying to executing the print statement, and then we got output hi Python, then this is my first script on Linux. But now when you use dot slash always two things required. One, read and execute permissions must. So we provided already, but still if you run it, it will not give you the output. See, so the second thing also we should know. So now if you observe here clearly, when we execute using with the dot slash, it will immediately call the default interpreter. So we are in Linux, and the default interpreter in Linux it is bash. So bash is born again shell, right? So the bash interpreter is trying to execute this script now. So bash interpreter is not understanding what is print, because see, now if I just type echo hi, it will work. But if I type print hi, it will not understand what this print is. Now you can compare the error. See, bash is saying syntax error near unexpected token hi. Same error we got, syntax error near unexpected token hi. So the only reason is whenever if you are trying to execute using with the dot slash, always it will go and call the default interpreter. The default interpreter in Linux, it's a shell interpreter, especially in Linux operating system, it's a bash. If you are using AX operating system, it will be KSH. But any flavor of Linux, even Mac or Red Hat, Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, these all the operating systems, it will be a bash by default. Now this script, Bash is trying to execute this script and it is simply giving error. So that is why whenever if you are executing script using with the dot slash, always it is required shebang line concept. What is that shebang line? Shebang line we are using to invoke the interpreter. So we write like this, hash exclamation. So this is called shebang line. So what is this shebang line will do? It invokes the interpreter. What interpreter? Whatever you are providing. So it invokes the interpreter. So let's say now I want to write something bash. Okay, you can write shebang line, and then where is that the bash interpreter? We write like this, bin bash. But remember, if we are writing a shell scripting, even without this line, you can execute using with the dot slash. It will work, but only for Linux. Let's say now if you are copying that shell for AX operating system, in AX it will be by default interpreter is KSH. So that's why generally we provide always the shebang line for shell also. The reason is, let's say if you are copying across multiple platforms like Linux, AX, Solaris like that, and then whenever if you are executing using with dot slash, immediately it will look for the bash interpreter. The same story here. If you want to work with Python, in the Python also, first of all, we should get where is that Python interpreter is. So for that, we use which Python. So if you just type which Python, it will give you the path where Python interpreter is available. So the Python interpreter is available here under USR bin Python. So most of the Perl, Python, these are all third parties. It will be there under USR only. So now you can see, just we copy this and then we write with the shebang line, and then this is the path. Which means in the first line, we should add this line, okay, using with shebang. And remember, this should be a first line and also first position. Then only it understands, otherwise it will not understand the shebang line. First line, first position, it is reserved for shebang line, the shebang hash exclamation, and then the path of that interpreter. So I'm using Python interpreter, so we provide that. If you're using shell interpreter, you can write shell. If you are using Groovy or Perl, whatever, you can just write that path and then save the file. Now if you observe here script, there is a script now, but the first line we have a shebang line. This is required only if you want to execute using with the dot slash. Now, if I execute using with Python interpreter, what happens? Nothing happens. The first line, it reads like a just comment. That's it. But if you are executing using with the dot slash now, and immediately what happens? First, it will check read and execute permission. Yes, we have it. And if we have a read and execute permission, then immediately it will call the default interpreter. The default interpreter is shell interpreter, which is bash. Bash is trying to execute the script, but in the first line, there is a shebang. Immediately shebang line, it will invoke the Python interpreter, and then it will start execute using with Python interpreter. Now you can see, hi Python, this is my first Python, first script on Linux. So only the shebang line is required in case if you are executing using with the dot slash. So hope this shebang line concept is clear. So this is common for every scripting language if you are writing in Linux. So the purpose of shebang line is this. Instead of executing with the by default interpreter, we are defining that interpreter path, and then the shebang line, it will invoke the interpreter and then it executes based on this Python interpreter from the next line onwards. So hope it is clear now. So that's what two things required. So how to execute? Two ways we can execute using with Python interpreter name. So one is using with Python interpreter name. So this is simple. So this is common for every language again. And the second one is using with the dot slash. So whenever if you are executing using with the dot slash and then script name, so we understood two things important. One, read and execute permissions must. So that is why we provided ch mode. So by default read mode it will be there. So we can also use numeric method, but instead of just touching all other group and others permissions, so we can go with symbolic way always, u plus x. That means owner, for owner I'm giving execute permission and then script name dot py. And the second thing, shebang is mandatory. So shebang line must. So how to do that? So we just understood that user bin Python. This is the shebang. So what is shebang? We discussed already. So the shebang, it invokes the interpreter. What interpreter? If you are providing Python, then Python interpreter it invokes. Okay, so this is the way we write and execute the script. Now, whatever the script you are writing on Windows, the same script you can copy and you can execute here on Linux. It also works because this is a platform independent language and it's a portable, right? So portable means what? Like mobile portability. We know the same number across any platform like Airtel to Vodafone, Vodafone to some other network, we can shift it, right? So that is mobile portability. The same way here also, if you have some piece of code and then that code you can execute in different operating systems, Windows to Linux, Linux to Mac, like that. Okay, so now if you see, this is fine. It's a very basic, okay, we can run it like simply. But the question here, how we can execute the Linux commands? Let's say I have a command date. I have a command uname. I have a command pwd, basic commands. First we will try to understand very basic commands. Later we will see once if I start modules, sub-process module, sys module, those things we will cover in detail. If you want to automate all Linux commands, these three modules required. So there are three modules, OS module, sub-process and sys module. We will discuss that, but just now only for understanding how we can execute the command. Now anyone tell me, in Linux, for example, if you write a shell script, how to execute a command in shell scripting? So I want to, okay, now tell me, I just want to write these three commands in shell. So how we can execute these three commands? Any idea? Anyone?
Saving file as a .sh.
Yeah, that is first step. .sh extension is required. And then?
That bin bash, that shebang line has to be.
Yeah, shebang line, okay. So shebang also required in case if you are executing using the // okay.
Comments.
Then whatever commands we required to execute and to get the output, so we can update in the script file.
Okay, now for example, see something else one.sh. So I want to run this echo date. Let me write just like this, date echo and then what uname and then echo pw. There are three commands I'm trying to execute. Okay, I'm not even using the shebang line because I'm going to execute directly using with interpreter. So let me first check this cat s1.sh. So sh_s1.sh, now I'm using shell interpreter directly. Now tell me what it prints here. Is it prints like a date, uname, pwd as a text, or is it understands these three as a command?
I think it will print a text.
Yeah, it
Text
prints
only.
as a text. So how we run
Double
them?
quotation.
So how to run then OS commands?
$$sign.
Yeah, there are two ways we can use. One, you can use dollar open and close it parenthesis, but generally the best practice is we use backtick. So if you want to run any command here, so the reason, see now for example today date is, and then I want to print this, so we use backtick. Backtick means in the keyboard you can see if you are using shift till, you will get a till symbol. Shift till. Without shift, if you are using till symbol, you will get a backtick. So this is called backtick. So backtick we use to execute OS commands in shell scripting and also Perl scripting. So whenever if you are writing any script, shell or Perl in Linux operating system, in case if you want to execute OS commands, we use a backtick. So now see here, I am using this backtick then date. So the same way, let's say I want to run this also as a command, uname between a backtick. Same I want to run this as a backtick like this. So today date is, it will treat like a text, and then date it will execute, right? So now you can see here cat then s1.sh, and then I am trying to execute using with shell interpreter. Now you can see today date is, and date command it execute. So if you want to run operating system commands using with the shell scripting, we are following either dollar open and closed parentheses, or you can use backtick. Generally backtick we use. Now same thing I told even Perl, but now in Python backtick it will not work. In Python backtick it will not work. Then how we can execute the operating system commands? That's what we have these three models. So mostly we use OS and subprocess, but just we will see first OS model. So the OS model, using with OS model, I want to execute these three commands. So how we execute vi, then see I'm writing script2.py. So OS model is built-in model. By default, it will be there. Once if you install Python on Windows operating system, by default we will get OS model as a built-in model, like how we used the keyword the same way. In Linux also by default it will be there. So import OS. So now here also, if you want to check OS model, first we can go to the interactive mode in the terminal. See now I came to interactive mode, and then import OS here, and then dir of OS you can check the OS model properties it will display. So there are a lot of properties in OS model, but now we are only trying to understand how to execute the system commands. We will see the remaining properties later, but just I want to run some OS command. So there is a property called system. So the system property which we use to execute OS command here. So now see os.system of, what is the command you want to run it? I want to run the date command. So now it will understand this date as a system command, Linux command, then it will execute here. So the same thing you can also write in the script file. So now see vi script2. Let's say I just want to run this print. You can directly use also, but we will discuss in detail, like with the combination of subprocess model. There you will get complete idea with some use cases. But now I'm just giving basic idea here. So os.system of, and then I want to run the date command first. os.system of, let's say I want to run something uname command, and then os.system of something pwd command I'm executing. So you don't need to use backtick, but we should import this module and then we can execute this. So now you can see cat script2.py, and then I'm trying to execute directly using with interpreter name, and then you can see the output here, the commands it executed. Okay, so this is how the operating system commands we execute using with Python. So this is a OS model, but OS model is very basic level. So if you have a direct commands, you can execute like this. But let's say now, for example, I want to use something ls-l. It is not recommended. That is by sub-process model. So I want to check something df-k. So whatever, like if you are using the command some argument, then we go with sub-process. So we will see some use cases using with those models later. But now just to understand, so now see the same model you can also use on Windows operating system. So now see, I just opened command prompt. I'm going to the Python interactive mode, and then I'm just trying to use import OS. Okay. Let's say now I want to run here something. I want to get some IP address. So in Windows, we use a IP config. In Linux, we use IF config, right? So I'm using os.system of IP config, but it should be between a quotes. IP config. So it will give you, see, I'm not executing the command directly on the command prompt. I'm executing using with Python in the Python interactive mode. Now you can see it will give you the output. So which means the model is same everywhere to execute any operating system commands. But in Linux, it is more important because everything it's a commands. But Windows, it is very rare we use. If you want to execute commands, then we can use it. So now you can see find, let's say I want to find only IP match, like a grep command. So it will only give you wherever IP matches. Instead of printing the complete text, you can write like that. Now, for example, see, I want to clear the screen. So again, remember, we don't have like CLR, SCR, CLS something. You should run that using with OS model CLS to clear the screen. So now, for example, if you write inside the script also, now see, I'll write a script. Okay, so now session 4 underscore script dot py and then save as type. So this is on Windows. So first what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to import a model, import OS model, os.system of. So I told that if you want to run any command, we use IP config Amazon. And from here also find only wherever IP matches, only that text I want to print it. So I should close this single quotes. Okay, now we can see here Python and then session 4 underscore script dot py. I can see the output. We got output, the command output. Now let's see, for example, okay, so while printing some output, first I want to clear the screen for some purpose. Let's say now sometimes what we do, we write some menu programmings. So menu programming means what? For example, okay, assume I just want to write some options like 1 and then 2. So 2 options I want to write. So first I want to write something like a distribution menu. In middle of the page, I want to print something dist menu here. Some text dist menu, and then the options I want to print 1, 2. So 1 for something add user, 2 for delete user. Assume like that. So while writing this, we simply use here new lines and we can use tab spaces. Right. So for example, see print, I want to print something, the next line, next line, next line, next line, next line. And then after 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tab spaces. I just want to print something distribution menu, something like this. So the same thing we actually use in shell scripting, tput cup, different options we use. Now you can see it is printing here somewhere. Okay, if you want to print maybe here like that, you can use one more tab space here. Okay, now I'm trying to execute this again, but if you see, it is not clearing the screen first. It is just whenever if you are executing, it is executing and printing the output. But assume every time, whenever if I am executing the script, first I want to clear the screen, then later display the output. So what we do, we use a model here, that is a OS model. So import OS, os.system system of CLS command since we are in Windows. So now I am just using CLS and then again I am executing it. Now you can see first it cleared the screen and then it is printing this list. Okay, so now if you want you can write, like for example, see what I want to do. I want to write some options. I'll show you that how it will be. So something I'm just writing here like underline under dist menu. So if you check again, it will be like this now. And then again, next line, I'm going to write here the option 1. Option 1 something for add user. And then let's say next line option 2 I'm using for a delete user, something like this. And in the next line, I'm going to take something choice. So just for understanding I'm writing. Anyway, we will discuss again using with the conditional statements. So now I'm trying to write input of enter your choice. Okay, so if I execute this, you can see first what it will do, it will clear the screen and then it display dist menu and then you can see the options 1 to enter your choice. So if you are executing this type of scripts, if the screen is not clearing first, it will not be good, right? So we need to know that. So how to clear the screens? It's not just CLR, SCR, it will not work. We need to understand that if you want to clear the screen, first you should import the module and then we execute a command CLS on Windows. But if I'm giving option, then additional code is what? The remaining code, it will be conditional statements. If first condition matches what we need to do. If second condition matches what we need to do. So that is different story. But here we just understood this part just for what, how to clear the screen and then how generally we write this code. So hope it is clear now. Any questions in this? The importance of clearing the screen, right? Okay. So now here we will see the strings. So string, I told there are different types of strings we have. There are 2 types of strings we have. So strings. So one is a single quoted string. We use single quotes, just single quotes like this. And then we have a double quoted strings. Double quoted string, we use double quotes. So we already know there is no differences between single quotes and double quotes. That is fine. But so simply we can say no difference between single and double quotes in Python. Only in Python, okay. So if you are writing shell or any other scripts, there is a difference. Okay, now, but there is no difference, but what we need to understand, we have to understand here quoting rules. So quoting rules means, for example, see, this is common in every language again. For example, I am defining str1. So see, for example, I'm just writing something like this. I know Python. Just one string I'm writing. And then print str1. So if you're trying to print str1, it will print as it is, right? So it will just print as it is. See, so here also I'm trying to first clear the screen and then print it. Every time you can use this. So it just prints the string. So string length is infinite here in Python. You know, the advantage in Python, if you see any programming languages, there is a limit for variable. So you cannot define more than that characters. But in Python, there is no limit. For any variable, infinite value you can provide here. Okay, now it is printing, I know Python, but when the problem comes, let's say now if I write something, I don't know Python. So just I'm writing this just for what? Understanding. So the string like this I have, I don't know Python. Now if I execute, you can see we got a syntax error. So why syntax error here? Any guess why syntax error?
Yes, there are two inverted commas, like I don't has got one. And
Yeah.
there's the other, there is no closing of that.
That is correct. So here if you observe, single quotes between single quote. This is a ambiguity. Ambiguity means interpreter is getting confusion now. So ambiguity means confusion, right? So interpreter is getting confusion because single quotes between there is a single quote. So always remember one starting quote, one ending quote is mandatory. But in between now we have another single quote here. That is why it is just not understanding which one is the last one, either this or this. So simply it will give you syntax error. So which means like if you write single quotes between single quotes, we should also know the quoting rules, how to provide this single quote. So this is not the correct way. So what generally we do, so single quotes between single quotes, okay, this is quoting rules here. So whenever if you write single quotes between single quote, not accept. Same thing, double quotes between double quotes, not accept here. But single quotes between double quotes you can use, it accepts. Double quotes between single quote also it accepts. Okay, so try to understand. Single quotes between single quote not accepts. Double quotes between double quotes not accepts. But single quote between double quote it accepts. Double quotes between single quote also it accepts. But if you want to write single quotes between single quote itself, then we use a separator called backslash. Then it accepts here. Double quotes between double quotes, then again separator is required, then it accepts here. Now, if you observe here for this, if I'm giving a backslash, then there is no problem, and then it will execute it. Now you can see, I don't know Python, it is there. So same way, for example, there is a str2. So let me write something like this. I said some string, random string I'm writing. I don't know Python. So if you see double quotes between single quote, we discussed it is okay, it works, right? So now double quotes between single quote, it accepts. So I said I don't know Python. But again, when the problem comes, if you write double quotes between double quotes, let's say str3 here, and then I'm just writing here again one more double quotes, and then again here one double quotes. And I'm trying to print str3. So now we will get error. So this is syntax error. Remember, it's a compilation error. This is our responsibility as a programmer. We should fix it because syntax errors always our responsibility. So Python, it says that I already provided syntaxes how to do that. You should be aware of it as a program. So the rule is here, double quotes between double quotes not accept. We should provide a backslash, which is a separator. And also, while providing the separators, we should also know that starting quote, ending quote is mandatory. And between, if you have any, then we need to keep it. So there is a one more here. Now again, I'm trying to execute. Now you can see the output. It is giving, I said, I don't know. So hope it is clear. So while writing strings concept, this is important, how to write single quotes between single quotes, double quotes between double quotes, these all the things. So this is more important thing while working with strings. Okay, now anyone tell me what is the differences between function and method? Any guess? Function and method. Anyone has idea of what is function, what is method, where we use this? What is the importance of this? Okay, any difference at least?
Method is a set of instructions.
Function?
It's a procedure, like set of procedures.
Yeah, so function is a procedure, correct. So we call it as a procedures, we call it as a functions, we call it as a subroutines. These all are same. But now, what is exactly the difference? Any guess?
By using method, we can call the function.
Okay, so where generally we define method?
When we use the function, like when we define the function.
Okay, not exactly. Okay, I'll just give you simple idea. For example, if you see C language, is it a procedure oriented or object oriented? Any guess? C language. C language, is it a procedure oriented or object oriented? So may think, okay, I'm a
Procedure.
Devops expert. So why this silly question, right?
I think procedure oriented. Oops is object oriented.
Correct. So C language
I
is
think.
procedure oriented programming. So this is a procedure oriented program. Okay, let me write this procedure oriented programming. So generally we call it as a POP, which is procedure oriented programming. But if you see C++ or Java, these are pure object oriented programming. OOP, I'm writing. Object oriented programming. So in C language, we have only functions. We don't have a methods concept. In C language, we have only functions. We don't have a methods concept. And C++ Java, we use only methods, but there is no function concept. So basically in C++ Java, we generally call method itself as a function, but we are trying to understand the complete difference. So which means in procedure oriented programming, we are using functions. In object oriented programming, we are using methods. The simple difference is object oriented programming languages, every time we use a class statement to write whatever code, even if you want to print hello world, class is mandatory. First class, then class name, then inside that only we write it. So C language, it's a pure procedure oriented. We have only functions. C++ Java, it's a pure object oriented programming. Everything it starts with class and then class name. Inside the class statement, if you write a function, that function we call it as a method. Okay, now in Python, we have both. The reason is Python, we have both procedure oriented as well as object oriented. Whatever the code we actually discussed, this all we discussed with the procedure oriented code, procedure oriented language. We are not using class statement here, right? But if you are using class statement, inside that class statement, we write actually method. So why we need to understand this here? I told in the last session, if you observe, str is a one class. Str contains a lot of methods, string methods. It's not a function again, it's a method. So whatever we write inside the class, we call it as a method. Outside the class, it's a function. So print is a function, type is a function, id is a function in Python. But we are going to discuss methods. That is a separate only for that dedicated session, which means what? Like string class or list class or tuple class, which means what? Only string methods you can use only for strings. You cannot use for list. But type, it's a common function. Wherever you want, you can use it. So this one we will see deep dive. The first we will see the basic understanding the differences, and then we will see all the string methods. And then there are a lot of things like strings again, how to access based on the index or based on the reverse index any character if you want to access. And also we will try to understand mutable and immutable things in the next session. So any questions now? So today we only covered Linux part, how to write Python script on Linux, and then different way to execute those things we understood. Yeah, Mohan.
Yes, sir. Please ask us to share this note, sir, because we didn't get for session 3, I guess.
So I already shared it. So maybe you can check with Velaxy team. I will also update Madhu. Okay, you may get
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Then we'll stop today and we'll continue tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.